Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to achieve true success and happiness in your life, then do we have the 4 secrets to success intensity matching 3-minute pitch show for you. Today I'll be talking with Brant Pinvidic, award-winning film director, veteran TV producer, founder and CEO of INvelop Entertainment, and host of the Why I'm Not podcast and a brand new business-paced podcast, IPO. He's sold more than 300 TV and movie projects and sold TV shows like Extreme Makeover, Weightloss Edition, and Bar Rescue, which have grossed nearly $1 billion in revenue. He's also the author of a really fun and transformative read we can all benefit from, The 3-Minute Pitch. But today I want to talk with him about preparing and planning for happiness, and why preparing for success and planning for it are 2 different things. That plus we'll talk about red Pontiac GTOs, napkins of destiny, swimming with sharks, $4 million and 7,000 horsepower, bombing down Mammoth, Saskatchewan bars, oh no, CL Mercedes and Ghost mods, 2-day desert tours in a flat, and what in the world Wile E. Coyote and actually catching the Roadrunner, meep meep, has to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Brant. Are you ready to shine?
I just love it. I'm telling you, those are the intros you live for.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah,
All right, before we dive into the sharks, first, I guess we're going to go for the sharks. Then we're going to the napkin of destiny. Why are you swaying, Brant?
Well, because I was on a boat for 5 days with my executive mastermind crew, and we had a couple of rough days, but you get your sea legs, and then those stay with you as you get on land. So everything feels like it's woo, but it was pretty good, yeah. So
and were you quite literally swimming with the sharks? Because I've seen photos.
In the most literal sense, I was swimming with great white sharks at Guadalupe Island, 210 miles off the coast. I had 18 executive members, 85-foot boat, 5 days, and we had about 17 different great white sharks. They averaged from 12 to 19 feet, and it was the most incredible experience it was just incredible.
So the 2 big questions that come up are, first, are we talking cages? And secondly, why?
Well, yeah, of course we're talking cages. I figure anybody who asks if you're diving with sharks without a cage doesn't know how sharks work. But yeah, we have surface cages where you're sort of like at the surface of the boat, so it's super safe and easy to deal. No scuba diving, you're just basically there, and it's a great experience. You get to see them and watch them what they do, and it gives you a completely different experience than what you think sharks are like. Sharks have no interest in you whatsoever. There are no shark attacks. There's maybe a shark like, oops, I bumped into you with my teeth, but there's no like, I want to eat you. Because if it wanted to eat you, you'd be eaten. That'd be the end of that. So, and they're just not interested. So they have a very specific eating and hunting pattern. And when you watch it, you're like, oh, right. Okay. Got it. They do their thing.
What was the feeling of being in the water? Is it a take your breath away? Is it an awe? Is it a humility? I think we have frozen. So the question is, why have we frozen?
Okay, are we back? Sorry.
Now we're back. Okay, hold on. Let me shut a few things down.
Let's try that again.
And let me get into the last question. Let me shut this down. I was just about to go. Whose internet is it? Okay. There we go. All right. So you're swimming with sharks. You're seeing them right in front of you. There's multiple rows of teeth. What are you feeling? Is it awe? Is it take your breath away? Is it humility?
It's a little all that. There's no fear whatsoever because you realize that they're just not there for you. They're not going to come and try to eat you. That's just not what they do. But the size and scope of how they move is just so shocking and awe-inspiring. And mostly it's just excitement because you're just like, you cannot believe that you're watching a great white shark right in front of you. And they come really close to the cage. And we had a couple of them bump into the cage a couple times, which is just like so thrilling. And the biggest surprise is how they can sneak up on you. How a 2,000 pounds, 19-foot shark that you're watching for, where there's 4 of us in the cage looking for it, will literally sneak up at you. And we had 150-foot visibility. And you'd look away and you'd come back and there it is right on your shoulder. And it was just like, oh, it was so cool.
Now, do you think they were having as cool of an experience? Were they watching you as much as you were watching them?
Yeah, there's no question. They know you're there. They check you out. They wonder what's going on. They've dismissed you completely. And, they use sort of like a tuna, like a whole tuna to attract them. there's no chumming the water, any crazy stuff like that. It's just basically like it's like, hey, we'll give you a free morsel of food if you come and prance around for us, kind of thing, right? It's an exchange, and it's pretty neat because they're not super interested in the tuna. Like you'd be surprised in your brain, you think of it's gonna be like another animal, like your dog or something like that, where you give them a treat and they're gonna be like, oh, get a treat. It's just like, what is this thing? I don't know if I'm even interested. And then eventually it'll come up and kind of like half-ass kind of take a bite at it. And then, the guy pulls it away to try to, you don't want to give him too much food. And then eventually they're like, listen, I'm going to eat this thing now. And when it decides it wants it, it has no, it eats it. It just comes up from underneath it like, rah, and boom, and that's it.
Well, there
And
was
you
a
put another
picture.
piece of tuna on.
There's a picture
Yeah.
I saw of one of the great whites completely vertical. And what's interesting
Yeah.
is it wasn't even interested in the fish around it, and the fish around it didn't seem concerned in the least. But
No,
it
and
is
that's the thing. Yep.
oh,
There are hundreds and hundreds of fish around it. There's tuna everywhere. It doesn't even take a snap at them, doesn't even move fast to try to get them. It just like it circles this sort of dead carcass that you throw out there and then decides like, is it worth the effort to eat this thing? First it says like, I don't know, maybe. And then eventually when it says yes, it just comes up from the depth in this stealth mode and just like hits it and it's done. And then it eats it and goes away. It was just like amazing. It was an amazing experience. Highly recommend it to anybody.
very, very cool. So we're going to talk about hit and runs here, and we're going to talk about success. And I'm wondering what in the world a napkin of destiny has to do with anything.
So that was when I was living in Canada and struggling as an entrepreneur, trying to find my way in a culture that just doesn't support entrepreneurs the way you would think. If you're an American, it's hard to get that perspective. So I just couldn't find something that worked for me. Everything was kind of off. And I had tried a few things. I had moved to the middle of Canada to run a bar. I had tried bars and nightclubs. I had a web design business. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. None of it worked properly. And then I came to the United States and sort of got a bunch of offers on this TV show idea I had. And there's all these big opportunities. And when I went to tell my wife that, hey, like I want to move to the United States, she was like, yeah, no, we tried this move for an idea before. It's not happening. And so we were at dinner and I asked the waitress for a pen. And I remember like it was yesterday, she gave me this red felt pen. I was like, oh, okay, red, weird pen. So I unfolded one of the big dinner napkins and I wrote all the conditions that would have to be met if we were going to move to the United States.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, NBC can buy this. Someone can give me money. Someone can hire me as a job. Someone wants to start a business. Like I had all these outlines of what would have to happen for us to move to the United States for her to be like, okay, we can, if these things are happening, then I guess it's real enough that we can go. And so I don't know why, but like I just saved that napkin. And so I have it framed in my office right now.
Very, very cool. I have one of those napkins with ideas on it myself. I haven't framed it. It moves its way around. Right now it's on the shrine. It just keeps migrating around, this
Yeah.
important napkin in my life. What is the importance then of qualifying success?
Well, I have a saying that I use: success that's not written down, quantified, and celebrated is really hard to achieve and really hard to appreciate. And that's what you find is that most people, when they get to a level of success or start to feel the climb of it, where you start to accelerate through a piece of your career or your business, you stop focusing on what you want to achieve, the goal, and you start hitting goals. And what happens is we just blow right through the end zone. And I always say, like, when did you start moving the goalposts? Like, earlier in your life, you had visions and ideas of what success was going to be like and what you'd appreciate. You actually thought, like, if I could get this, oh my God, I'd be set, right? And everybody's had those thoughts, certainly in your youth. And what happens is that you hit those things and two things happen. You realize that those aren't enough.
Yeah.
You want more. And two, like you've been in a process for so long that you don't understand the idea of accepting that success, celebrating that success, and being good at being successful. There's never been any practice at being successful. You practice and think about how to get there a lot. Spend every day, go to conferences, spend money, read books. How do I get there? And nobody talks about what do you do when you get there? Like, and we just don't practice that. There are skills that you need to develop to be happy, to feel joy, to feel appreciation in those moments. And you can't just magically start doing it.
Here's a perfect example from us, and I want to dive into this today about how we can
Yeah.
be good at being successful and be good at being happy. years ago, my wife and I got, we had 10 publishers vying for the rights of our books, and we got $250,000 deal from Random House. Woohoo! We should be celebrating.
Yeah.
What did we do? We didn't even go out to dinner. We said, okay, now it's time to get to work.
Right. And then it was the next thing, and then you delivered the book, and then you got the book out, and then like you have all these moments that you're like, you don't have to have a parade for yourself. It's not like that. It's more like it's that internal dialogue of like, okay, how would a person who wanted this moment, who thought about this moment, who appreciated this moment, what would that person feel like? Because you usually do feel it for a little bit. Like when you buy a big new house or you get a big check, you're like, yeah, but how quickly that goes away is so staggering. And it's because we just don't practice being in that moment and enjoying that feeling, extending that feeling, focusing on that feeling. And you end up chasing the things that give you that feeling. And surprise, surprise, those things are harder to find every time you get one. And I always say, in one of my seminars or if I'm on stage, like, what happens when the coyote catches the roadrunner? After everything he's been through, he finally catches it. Is he like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I finally got the roadrunner thing. I can go back to my life now.
Yeah.
My quest is over. I feel so fulfilled. No. He's like, I don't do anything else but chase roadrunners. This is what I do. I got to find another roadrunner. And as you probably have, and I've been dealing with a lot of, people in life at high successful levels that have literally caught all the roadrunners. Like there's no more roadrunners out there for them to catch. And ironically, that causes them a lot of emotional struggle because the pursuit of their quote unquote, white whale, the roadrunner, has been the defining element of their lives. And it's what's brought them joy. Not to say they're not happy, but they're only happy when they're chasing something. And that ends up usually being a diminishing return because at some point you win all the awards and you get all the accolades and you have all the toys and and that's what really becomes a problem, is it because when you focus in that world so heavily, you lose the ability to keep adding new things to your, I need a new thing to feel great about myself.
So really what we're talking about here, first off, we're talking about stop, drop, pause. We've got to be able to step back. Like I've got my little dream car, my shiny yellow Tesla with gold wheels. And every time I go in it, I'm like, oh my God, this is mine. Oh my God, this is mine. Oh my God, this is mine. And you joked in another show about being in a Lambo on the highway in LA and going, this is a piece of crap. But then you were able to get around and reframe that moment.
Well, it's important because it's not about feeling that moment as much as it is practicing the feeling of that moment, because you need to physiologically be accustomed to feeling that level of appreciation and success, because otherwise you're only going to feel it in certain ways. And the biggest problem I see now with clients is that they get that feeling of appreciation, fulfillment. I set a target, I knock it down, I win, I accomplish things. They only get that in the office. And so even on the upswing of their career, as they're doing that often, they feel this joy and this success, and they haven't caught all the roadrunners. They're chasing one and they're catching it and they love it and they want to chase more. I totally get that. And I encourage that. But what happens is that the other parts of their lives that don't give them that same feeling, personal relationships, family situations, time off, vacations, interactions with friends, weekends, those things don't give them any sense of accomplishment or fulfillment or structure or win. And that loses an appeal to them because they need that victory. And when those victories become further and farther between at the office, it just makes everything really difficult in life. And I've seen that with a lot of very wealthy, very successful people that I have to sort of reprogram from the beginning to like start practicing being successful. They're professionals in their industry and rank amateurs at being successful. They just haven't practiced it.
So I want to dive today into practice. Before we do that, from your own personal experience, you've been, I'll put it in quotes because we all tend to keep that bar going in front of us. You've been highly, quote unquote, successful. But what happened to you when you're going, oh my God, got the house relatively. And yes, we always have, FOMO. We're always looking at the other guy and what they've got. But I got the house, I got the car, I got the kids, I've got the wife.
Yeah.
What happened?
Um, for me, there was one defining moment when I was working with a very, very wealthy individual, and we were taking my first meeting with him was at his house. He rents a house in Los Angeles, lives in the UK. It's got to be a $25 million house on the top of Sunset Plaza. Never seen anything like it. It's just gorgeous. And our first meeting there, being very professional because this is the first time we've actually met. I'm sort of like half looking around at this house, going like, "Oh my God." And eventually we had a couple more meetings there. And so we finally got to be friendly enough where I said, "Hey, yeah, Greg, you got to show me this house. Like, this is so cool." He's, "Oh, yeah, you want a tour?" And so he gives me a tour, right? And I'm talking like 40 feet of glass windows open up to the opening of this infinity pool. And you're just like, every room I go into, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And I started to picture what my life would be like in this house. The wine cellar and the movie theater room and the pool. And I'm picturing parties. And we go into the master bedroom and it's huge fireplace and wall to wall glass. And it's the most spectacular thing you've ever seen. And I literally could feel myself getting a better sleep and waking up in the morning with this big yawn and be like, oh my God, in that room every morning. Right. And I turned to him and I said, like, this is just the most spectacular thing ever kind of thing. And I saw the look on his face and it was just ambivalence. He just was like, yeah. And he just sort of shrugged and was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I had producers at my house recording some show they were doing. And they were doing the same thing as I was giving them the tour of my house and my property. And there's horses here and all this kind of crap. And they were doing the exact same thing. Oh my God, there's horses. Oh, a volleyball court or whatever, right? And I was doing the same thing. Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, my kids used to play here, but they don't. Like, and it just sort of like, it stabbed me as to realize is that when and if I can afford a $25 million house, like that's the guy I was going to be. I was going to be that guy there. I'm already in my $2.5 million house. So I'm going to be that guy in a $25 million house. And getting that house is only valuable to me on the first step when I first walk in and like, oh, I'm so excited because that's the way I was in this house. And so it really affected me. And I started looking at my friends and all of my contacts, and I realized like, it's where we are. We're all in that mode where it's like we don't even have the capacity to fully experience the joy of the successful pieces that we brought to our lives and the toys and the fun things. We haven't even developed the skills to fully experience that. And guess what? More stuff doesn't just magically give you those skills. And I've realized that if you would have given me $5 million more 3 years ago, it wouldn't have done anything for my life. And now I'm getting better at the point where it's like, okay, well, if I get more money, there's a possibility I might actually be able to use it to bring more joy to my life, but only because I'm in full practice mode of joy in this particular situation. And I'm like a semi-professional fun haver right now. And I'm going to be a professional. I will be as good at having fun and experiencing joy in all areas of my life as I ever was as a TV producer or an author or a speaker.
Woohoo! This sounds like a very different version of working with the end goal in mind. The end goal not being the success of the business, the success of the bank account, to be able to travel, to be able to have the toys. You're talking about big picture, the emotion of joy or happiness or contentment, and practicing that.
Yeah, and I think that it's important because I don't speak I don't do this in public yet. Obviously, I have a book that's not in this world, but I dig you, and you and I have been talking about this. So I was like, yes, I will do this with you. But what I find is I don't talk to high school kids about this. I don't talk to young entrepreneurs about this in the same way because it's like, hey, you got to go grind for a bit first, right? Like there's a trade-off. Yeah, you could be a whitewater rafting guide and experience joy and freedom all the time, and you'll be broke and sleeping in a tent. Like there's a trade-off. Or you could be friends of mine who are 75 years old, worth $2 billion, and literally can't do anything else but show up at an office. Like those are the extremes, right? The goal is to practice along the way. So when you get to a certain level, you're like, hey, okay, I got money, I got some success. Now I need to start working on the rest of the ability so I can enjoy it because I've put in enough time. I need to take that time back out. Like you're investing. time and energy and sacrifices and working 18-hour days and all the things you sacrifice in life, you want to cash those things in at some point. And you want to cash those in for leisure and joy and excitement and relationships. And people usually blow past the exits when they go and they're like, well, you worked for the last 15 years. You're never going to spend that money. You don't even spend it now.
So let's talk about practicing. Let's begin with the story of Ed Milet.
Yes. Ed, Ed is a great example. Wildly wealthy. Again, caught all the roadrunners. And his wife one day asked him, was like, when were you the happiest? Because he didn't seem happy at this moment. And it was when he was working at sort of a boys' camp club as a counselor. And this is like when he was like 19 or 20 years old. He's like, honestly, that's the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it was because he had got in this pattern of eating the roadrunner, getting the next one, chasing it, what's going to be next. And as you lose all those abilities, it was really hard. And he sort of, and then when I sat with him and worked with him, it was like, oh, he made the change to be like, I'm going to focus on what I want to do. I'm going to start feeling success on a day-to-day basis. What would I have to do today to feel successful, to feel some joy? Because as I always say, my new sort of program takes you through, like, joy is the result of like achievement and intensity applied over time, right?
Oh, say that
You
again
can't,
more slowly. I like that.
yeah. Joy is the result of intensity
Yep.
applied over time. Away from your children, is there an intense relationship for you? And there's an intensity there. And when you achieve things, that brings you joy. And at work and as a sport, if you're playing sports, like those things, because it kind of, it's really hard to get joy from something that you don't feel about. You don't have any intense desire for. If you're in Barbados for the weekend, it's an intense experience because you love clear, crystal blue waters, all that kind of stuff. So what you want to be able to do is try to figure out how to find those moments on a longer term basis, on a daily basis. Like you do that along, and that brings you a totality of joy applied over time equals happiness. The more joy you squeeze into a certain amount of time will directly proportionally relate to the level of happiness you are. If I ask you, are you happy this year, this month, this week? Are you happy in life? Like those are all different time constraints. And you judge that by the amount of joy you've been able to squeeze in there. And so what Ed taught me is there's a way to find joy more often and apply that over time, and you end up raising your general level of happiness. And then I started to expand that into the sort of the program I teach today.
Excellent. So I'm going to dive into that now. I'm going to talk about the 4 key secrets or steps you can take today. Number 1, define what, quote, it is.
Yeah, because I think that, and it's a little cliche to write down your goals. And I'm okay with that. You write them down, don't write them down, whatever. Because goals are movable targets that adjust, and that's fine. But more importantly is like, what does success, and I just did this on my mastermind, which is like, what does success look like for you in 5 years, right? What would it be? What would have to have happened to make you feel successful? Forget the goal part. You're gonna find your way to your goals no matter what. Write them down or not. But what would success look like? What would have happened? Would you have sold your business? Would you have started another location? Would you have made new friends? Would you have been married? Like, if you describe that, what success looks like, and in your mind now, it's easy to say, well, if I have that in 5 years, I will feel successful. Everybody understands that because they're looking at, if I catch that roadrunner, I'm going to feel awesome. So when you define that, what success looks like, then I have you back it up. Okay, you got your 5 year. That's an easy one. Well, what does it look like in 1 year? What would have to happen in the next year by December next year, end of 2020, for you to feel like you had a successful year? Not the goals you would achieve, but what would you have to have happen personally so you feel successful? And again, you can probably picture that and think, yeah, if those things happen in 1 year, I would feel successful. Okay, back that up again. What would it be like in 1 month? Now it starts to get difficult, right? Because you're thinking like, well, I can't sell my business in a month, and I can't make $1 million, and I can't get married in a month. Like, now all of a sudden, it's not really about the goals anymore. It's about the process and what you're doing. So what happens in 1 month from today that would make you feel like you've had a successful month? What would have to happen? And now you start to really frame the idea over time, and it becomes more actionable items on a day-to-day basis. And then back that up one more time, 1 week. Like, imagine what it would look like next week for you to say, I actually feel successful this week. I felt like I was successful this week. Now that's a much more powerful process. And then I start doing it on a daily basis. Okay, what would it look like tomorrow? At this time tomorrow, what would have to happen to you so you feel like you had a successful day? And that's, if you can start doing that, you'll be surprised because your body physiologically doesn't know the difference. It just knows the feeling. Doesn't matter what it's getting it from. You could win the Super Bowl or win $12 in the lottery or watch your kid win a game or get a crossword puzzle right. Your body and brain doesn't know the difference. It just knows, I like this feeling. I understand what winning and success feels like. And you can do that piece by piece.
Thank you. So I want to talk about this carefully so that we don't fall into a trap. What do we bring to our goals, even on a day-to-day basis, so that we're not setting ourselves up for failure by saying, if I get XYZ done today, I will feel like a success? Because we use self-help, at least in the US, but here in the West, we use self-help to hurt ourselves.
Oh, yes. And what's funny is that you actually don't do that very much when you start talking about like that because you're not talking about achieving goals. It's more like what would you have to do to have you feel successful? Well, the thing is when you start talking about it, you already start to feel it. And like if I'm doing a half day seminar, it's like, okay, what would we have to do here right now so that in the next hour, an hour from now, we be like, that was a successful hour for us. We felt like that. Well, it's like just saying it out loud, you're already 3/4 of the way there because your brain starts to be like, oh, okay, I would just have to feel like I listened or I learned or I started writing or I would look around and that you start looking at the intangible elements, right? If you were going to feel good or successful or accomplished in the next hour, you might not actually accomplish anything. So we start looking at like, well, I guess I would look around my house and be like, wow, I can't believe I live here, right? Or you say like, oh man, I look pretty good today. I lost some weight last month. And like, that's the feeling. So all you're training yourself to do is the practice, like I talked at the beginning, of feeling the successes around you. And you can point to them that you want to be there, but really it doesn't matter how you get there. Your body, brain doesn't know the difference. You just want to practice the feeling. So if you can ever afford your own Ferrari or you could ever afford the 10,000 square foot house, you'll actually enjoy it more than your 2,000 square foot house. Because otherwise, what's the point? Like, why do you want a 10,000 square foot house if it's not going to make it better in your life? You picture all the things you'll do in that house, but you don't do them in the house you're in now. So it's like once you get practice feeling that, and it's like, you know what? I've always thought like, oh man, I would love a private plane. It's like, well, I wouldn't even be able to enjoy it. I'm getting close though. Someday I'll be able to enjoy that. Now I may never get one, but that's the way things are.
So there's a concept. Rick Hansen, author of Hardwiring for Happiness, is kind of a father of some of the research on happiness. He talks about anchoring in the moment. And that sounds like a lot of what you're talking about. Like you might step out the door in the morning, go for a walk, see the horses all around you, and anchor, take, breathe, bring that moment into your existence.
Yes. Yeah. The problem with that is, for a lot of people, men particularly, that's a little flighty. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like it's hard to get yourself to feel genuine about things, right? It's more important to set it as a goal. I find just with the people that I work with, because it's usually a lot of high performers. They're not just going to like magically feel appreciation that day, right? It has to be a goal. And so I always use the example, like, when I'm in my high intensity sort of moments, when I'm training and when I'm showing people, like if my wife wants to go to the mall and it's going to be a 3-hour shopping thing, there's nothing that I can convince myself that I will enjoy this. There's no way to change me that way. But when I say to myself, okay, let's say there was a contest nationwide for the next 3 hours, the husband that does the best shopping trip with his wife is going to win a trophy and be nominated for a prize. How would I behave? Okay. Well, I can tell you, I would probably win. I'd be in the top 5 in the world. Yeah. Because my brain goes, okay, well, I guess I would pay attention to my wife and I would ask her things and I like, it's easy to picture what you would do if you actually wanted to win that situation. And so again, body, mind, physiology doesn't know the difference between winning a big prize, winning a prize you just invent in your head. And so even though I don't want to be there and I'm not really enjoying it, I win that situation. And the act of winning it does feel good. And I like that. And the next time I have to go do something, whether it's a meeting or going to lunch, and I want to be like, and I'll do this as an exercise. It's like, okay, if the waitress here today at this restaurant was giving an award at the end of the day for the best customer, the customer she thought had the greatest lunch and enjoyed it the most, who would win? It's like, okay, how would I win that? What would I do? What would I act like? What would I say? How would my face be? Like, if you go through those steps, you start to realize, okay, like that's what winning the moment is. And it's a difference between saying just feel appreciation and be like, no, if it was a contest, how would you do it? People understand the contest. They understand the here's how I'm going to do it. And that way they're not pretending to enjoy or appreciate something. They're competing. And your body and your brain, we're just programmed for that. We're just programmed to do that.
I love that. Since we're coming into holiday season, we can each compete to see if we can give our partner, if we're lucky enough to have a partner in our life, see if we can compete to have the most high, what we keep peak experiences, whether it's in the
Yeah,
mall or otherwise with them.
that's right. And that was like, that's a thing because like you may not be motivated to give your wife or husband a great Christmas present kind of thing, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I don't want to shop. Like she's already got everything. Like I know those feelings. And that makes total sense because those are real. And in the imaginary world, it's supposed to be like, I'm so overcome with love and joy and desire that I want to. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but I got a life. Like, yes, that's just not the way the world works. But when I think about like, okay, it's Christmas. What if there was a prize for the best husband gift given today for their wife? Like, what would I do? How would I plot it out? And then it doesn't feel like such a chore anymore. It feels like a win. And the joy you get from situation. And you practice that enough, you want to win more situations. And that's helped me tremendously perform at a high level in all aspects of my life, not just work, not just my personal relationships, but like that's why I do the sort of travel and adventure club. And that's why I do that for my mastermind group is because like I want to win. I want people to come back from my experiences being like, this changed my life. And if there was a prize for who did the best weekend group, like I want to win. And I'm used to that feeling. And it's like, I joke on stage, it's like, it's my version, because I'm a relatively narcissistic type kind of guy. I'm like a caveman basically, but like I have this benevolent narcissism where
I
it's
love
like,
it.
I want to feel amazing and feel like the center of the world for myself and that I've done great things. And I find like I know how to get that almost selfish feeling of accomplishment. I can do these things for other people because they'll pour this lavish praise on me and me liking that. Caveman Brant loves that.
But there's a coolness to Caveman Brant and me likey that, which is this
Yeah.
benevolent narcissism necessarily positively affects everybody else around you. It's the concept of the more selfish we are of taking care of our feelings, not taking
Yeah.
care of our possessions. But that's what
Yeah.
we're coming down to is feelings. The more we will quite literally transform everybody around us and transform the world.
That's right. And I've so embraced that it's like, oh, now I know how to play that game for myself and I love it and it's working. It's been a really great, like I'd say about the last 2 years, I've really been in high performance mode in this area.
Woohoo! All
Woo,
right.
baby.
Let's talk about winning more situations and the game of life. Let's talk about matching your intensity, which is the number 2
Yeah.
secret here.
Yeah. So like I was saying in the course of winning, and I worked with a professional athletes in the Los Angeles Clippers and what I show them is what I call the intensity chart is like, where's the intensity in your life? And for a professional athlete, it's game time is the highest level of intensity they have. Except for what you see also is when they go to practice, they practice at a full level intensity because they know that the way you practice affects the way you play.
Heck yeah.
And it's not that they're doing that at practice to gain more skills. They're professional athletes. Tom Brady's not getting better on a Wednesday practice than he was the following week. It's not like that. But it's to train their brain physiologically and their bodies to be at that high level. Because the difference between LeBron James and the other NBA players or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan was not their level of skill necessarily. It was the consistency of the performance. Every NBA player basically could do the same skills that Kobe Bryant does or LeBron James does, but they don't do them every game and they don't do them every play. And Michael Jordan almost did it every play at every second he's on the court. And so what I tell people is you don't need to be better. You need to be the best version of you more often. that is such a
Huge.
bigger return on your investment. And so when I say matching intensity, and when I showed these players that you play at the highest level, you practice at the highest level, and then you go home and you're down here at average person level. And you go out in the weekend, or you go to dinner, or you go meet your mother-in-law, or your wife has friends over, you're taking kids. Like now you're an average person living averagely. Yet you're a professional up here and a high performer and then average. And if you don't think that wave of up and down intensity in your life affects your highest level, you're delusional, because it's just the way it is. So the more intensity you bring to the off time, first of all, don't call it off time, the more performance you're going to find on when you want to be on. You'll be more consistent. And so what I started doing was I started looking at every moment, aspect, relationship, piece of my life as an opportunity to be at the highest level, what I do. And when people ask me, don't you ever take a day off? Oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I'll take a day off and do nothing by the pool, and I will crush it. I will do that at the highest level possible. And I will feel at the end of that day, I'll be like, oh my God, I just crushed that day, like killed it. And I'm getting to the point now where I can feel as accomplished and excited about that day off that I took as I ever did about selling a show, or working or directing a movie, or being on stage, giving a great speech. Like now I'm able to get myself to appreciate crushing it and doing my best at anything. Fixing something in the house, taking my wife to dinner, working with my kids, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. I want to do my best at it, and I'm used to that, and I really like it.
Woohoo! What I love about that is, so I had my second near-death experience, I don't even know now, 5, 6 years ago, and I spent, with many other people's blood in me, I still didn't have the energy to take my head up off of the couch for weeks. And what I learned from that experience, among many, many other things, goes right to this, which is when I was on the couch, be on the couch. When I'm meditating, be with a meditation. When I'm walking, walk with everything I've got. And when I'm running, run with everything I've got. Bring that
Yeah.
presence, bring that intensity, that focus, like you say, that crushing it to whatever I am doing.
Yeah, and you'll find that it draws people to you. People perceive that instantly, and it becomes part of what you do. And I had a really profound moment when we went on this boat trip to the Sharks. Is
Yeah.
that the very first day it was pretty wavy. There was a little bit of weather in the harbors and stuff as we were getting out to sea, and it was really rocky. And I had been preparing for the trip, and 18 people was a lot of work and very intense. And I had just given a huge keynote the day before, and I had a bunch of press for the book that day. And it was like, it was all of this crazy sort of intense moments led up to the moment when we left. And when we left dock, it was finally like, okay, I'm done. I get 5 days. And for me, those things usually come with a big adrenaline dump for me. Like I'm usually the day after a big keynote or something like that, I'm kind of like, oh, worn out. My stomach's all, ugh. And so combine that with the waves, I was like kind of
Oh,
feeling
no.
like kind of off,
Yeah.
to say the least. And so we'd only been on the boat an hour, and I'm just not myself. I'm not saying anything. I'm not whining or crying in the corner. I'm just kind of like, ooh. And I must have had, I'm going to say 12 of the 18 people come up to me and be like, hey man, you all right? What's going on? Is like something wrong? Like, and I'm like, I'm just not myself. And it's because people are used to that level of Brant,
Mhm.
that energy, that infectious kind of like I'm resonating at this level. Come with me. And when I could see when I turned that off, you could see how people who barely even knew me were like, "Boing, something's off, something's off. Where's that vibration we're supposed to be having?" You know? And it's like, it's a really, it's a really cool thing when you start to find that balance of bringing the best version of you to every and any situation, anytime you want.
It's something that I first heard it from a guest, Paul Selig, on the show, so I can't take credit for it, but I call it going to the upper room. How much time can I spend in that higher vibrational state? Now, yes, I'll
Yeah.
bounce down, but how much awareness can I bring when I go down so that I'll run right back up the stairs?
Yes, sir. That's it.
So let's go to secret number 3. Take the win.
Yeah, that's like, it's hard for people to do because our world is sort of programmed to have big goals, right? And not little achievements. We're not really in that mode. And so what you'll find is before you even finalize something you really wanted to do, you're already on to the next thing. And you're sort of like, yeah, but I wanted to do this, or like, yeah, I wanted to score this much, or yeah, this is really cool, but what about this? Or these people did 10 of these, I only did 6 of them. And if you could only have one of them, I always make the joke about like at a craps table or a blackjack table, like if you keep doubling down on your need to find the win at the end, like eventually you're just going to be like, have all these chips on the table and you're never going to take any. And it's like, pull some chips off the table, take the win, accept the compliment, like feel like you've done it. It's okay. You can keep going for the next thing, but you might as well like have a little bit of like, yeah, this, if it never gets better than this, are you okay with that? And then you got to have a little bit of that along the way where you're like, take a W, feel excited about it. Like, yeah, you want to win the Super Bowl, but like it's good to win a game. Like win a game. Feel like you won a game. Celebrate. Like nobody wants to be the person that wins the game and is like, yeah, but these don't count because it's only the Super Bowl that matters. And there is a balance to that I don't know how to deal with. Because on one hand, if you're really concerned about that game and you're all in the moment of those games, you might not win the Super Bowl. And it might be the guy who can't celebrate any of the games. He only cares about the Super Bowl and he'll do nothing else and nothing else matters. And maybe that's the guy who wins the Super Bowl more often. I don't know for sure. But all I know is like, I don't know that winning the Super Bowl in that moment then has the same value because it's like he's never practiced feeling great about winning anything in the world. He just won 14 games that year, never felt great about it. And you care that if he wins the Super Bowl, he's not going to be happy enough because he's going to want another one or he's going to want the MVP again or whatever it is. And that's what I see a lot with clients is that they don't take the individual wins because they think the end goal is the only thing you can focus on. And I make the joke all the time. If you're okay with not owning a private plane, if you think that your life doesn't need a private plane and you're okay if you never get one, you'll never get one. Because only people who will not rest and can't live with themselves unless they own a private plane ever get to that point. But the truth is, anybody who owns a plane isn't happy with it because they want the bigger plane. And they're upset, not upset, but they have a desire to get a bigger and better one. And somebody else has the G650 and I only have the G4. And it's like, it's that mentality. And if you might need that mentality to work hard enough, to sacrifice enough things to get that plane. But you got to be prepared to understand that when you get it, you ain't going to want it because there's another one out there.
So my question becomes, it's kind of really a Buddhist tenet, which is there's a concept in Buddhism that drop everything else and pray to the Buddha and then drop the Buddha. Or if you're on an island and you need to get off the island, pray to the raft, get the raft to the other side, and then let go of the raft. Can we fake our way into a mentality that's saying, I understand the impermanence of life. I understand there's something more going on. Yet I choose to be very attached to my wife. And when we have kids, I will choose to be very attached to my kids. Can we choose to be very attached to the goal while remembering that we have?
Yeah, because that's what the practice is. It's like that's what like as I go through my book and the elements as my sort of corporate business stuff takes off more and I leave the TV stuff behind, it's like I have goals for what I'd like to be doing in this world and the achievements I'd like to get as a speaker and as a coach and all this kind of stuff. And I'm practicing what it feels like to be really good at that because there are times when I leave the stage and it's like, holy crap, I just killed that. Look at the 700 people in this room are like standing up and I relish that and I love it. I still want bigger and better, but I'm getting the practice in of what it feels like to be successful in that and to feel like, okay, if I never got a bigger room, if I never booked more things, if I never interviewed these people, like if that didn't happen, I'd still be able to be amazingly appreciative and happy and successful in this version of what I've achieved because I'm starting to practice the ability to feel that way in any situation. So I don't need the next level, but I want it because I know I might be able to squeeze more joy. I might be able to feel more impressed with myself and excited with a little bit bigger and better, I think. But that takes practice, and you got to be diligent about it, because otherwise, again, then it's like, I can only feel appreciation if I get to the next level. And I'm sort of at the moments like, I want it, but I don't need it.
And I think sort of like the old adage, which tends to be more often true than not, which is when you're not looking for that partner, for instance, in life, you may actually attract them in. The more that you
Yeah.
say, I don't need it, but you're choosing to go to that higher room, to go to that higher vibrational
Yeah.
state, the more the success chases you down.
Yeah. You want to get somebody to give you money? Don't need it. Want a bank to lend you money? Don't ask for it. Like, that's just the way it is. You need money. No one's lending it to you. That's just like, that's the way the world is. And so we're drawn to that level of it, that attraction is natural.
Thank you. So let's go to the next piece that we're drawn to. Number 4 out of the 4 secrets, which is find a cheerleader.
Yeah, this is really important, and I've really noticed it lately. So, on this mastermind we just did in the middle of the ocean after the sharks, and on our way back, we're clearing customs, and we sit down, and I had everybody write down sort of what they were impressed with the other people in the trip. So you're writing down what you're impressed with the other 17 people, and to hear what 17 other really high performing, high level successful people think about you is shocking, because you're like, I didn't know that I made that kind of impression on people. And it was this genuine moment where you're sharing the success of other people and saying, like, I was so amazed at how you kept the group going, or your leadership ability, or you were so fun, like all these things. And it's like, you just don't hear that in your world, and you just don't let yourself believe that. And so if you find somebody in your world that will at any moment say, like, dude, you're killing it. I can't believe that was such a great, like, you did so great. Good for you. Like, that helps you practice, because you got to accept that. You got to listen to that. You got to deal with that. You got to explain what happened. And like, it gives you a moment to be like, yeah, that was really cool. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And it's like, yeah, you got 10 more to cover, but you might as well be like, yeah. And having someone that you can sort of like have in your life that will pump you up effectively is super, super valuable.
Yeah, I like this because there is a huge importance to having a mentor. I believe everybody needs a mentor, a coach, somebody. Even the greatest coach in the world needs a coach.
Yeah.
However, nobody talks about, until you, Brant, nobody talks about getting a cheerleader in your life,
Yeah.
because that's your muse, that's your juice, that's your
Yes, it
mojo.
is. And it's like, and there was a guy on our trip that is his main dilemma. Like, I do a dilemma dinner, which is like, what's the dilemma? What's the puzzle you need to solve in this next year to achieve what you want? Like, and his main dilemmas was like, I don't accept compliments. I don't accept praise. I don't want to, makes me uncomfortable. So that's his default position.
Yeah.
And it was still good for him to hear that, and to have people say, like, hey, I don't need to say this about you. Like, I'm saying this honestly. I barely know you, like that kind of thing. And it's not a coach. Like, a coach's a whole other thing that helps with strategy, and that's great. And we all need that, because you want to be able to take emotion out of the situation, and someone who can appreciate. I always say that in my coaching. I was like, I appreciate the emotion that you have for the situation. I'm just not swayed by it. But the cheerleader side of it is different. It's the person that's in your corner being like, you're awesome. You did this amazing. That was killer. I can't believe you did that. Oh, people must love it. You crushed it. Like, and it's that yes man, but in a genuine way. And it's like, you're not deluding yourself. It's just, you need to appreciate it. And it helps you celebrate those things. And it helps you bring yourself along so that you can feel that way. Because you need to be able to feel that way about yourself when the cheerleader's not there. And it's a good program.
So, in other words, it really helps. Not only are we amateurs in finding our own happiness, amateurs in determining what success and living in that place of success, we're probably amateurs at being cheerleaders for others and get to practice as well, which is going to help us become professionals at cheerleading for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think it's because we're in this mode a lot of times where it's like, if I give you something, it takes away from me. Right. If I tell you how great you are, it compares to how great I am. And I've noticed when I bring people together in my groups that are from all different industries and elements, at a high enough level, they're like, yeah, I've already kind of got my together. And so I'd love to help you. And those people, and you always find it's like, that's why coaching from successful people works better, because it's like, they don't mind giving you the goods. They don't mind telling you how great you are. It doesn't detract from me. Right. And I think that's important for people to get through, is that you learn to be lavish in your praise and sincere in your appreciation, because there's nothing that costs you in that moment. it actually, like my benevolent narcissist, actually makes you feel good because you're watching people feel amazing because of you. And it's like caveman likes that. I like people feel good. That's good. And so it helps you develop that ability, and you're surprised how people respond to that.
Woohoo! All right, few last things I've got for you. First off, you're wearing the shirt. It's got the logo on. What is reject average? And then most importantly, there's a question that I keep on forgetting to ask you. You drove
Yeah.
around in $4 million worth of 7,000 horsepower cars.
Oh yeah.
And I keep forgetting to ask. So we've got to ask what is reject average, but which was your favorite?
Um, of the cars.
Yes.
All right, I'll get to that. So Reject Average is a nonprofit travel and adventure club that I started a few years ago with the idea of wanting to take executives and my friends and colleagues outside of their comfort zone in the office and out to do fun things. And the truth behind it is that I got a point in my life, a little bit of a midlife crisis. As you know, I have a fancy red sports car. I always joke my wife's still built like a 21-year-old. I needed a midlife crisis to pour into, and I just didn't have friends. My kids are getting a little older. Like, I just didn't have friends to go do fun stuff with.
Yeah.
And I always, when I tell that, I ask people like, how many times did you go jet skiing this year? Like, most people will be like, none. They're like, well, do you not like jet skiing? Like, oh yeah, jet skiing would be great. Well, the reason why you don't go is nobody's inviting you to go, right? And I was like, nobody invites me to do anything unless I put it together. So I started putting together things that I wanted to do, inviting my friends, and that turned to 10 friends, and 25 friends, and 50 friends, and 400 friends, and now we're 1,200 and some. But what it does is I curate these really cool, fun, like activities, adventures, adrenaline kind of stuff. Not like big adrenaline stuff, but just fun, really cool stuff. And I curate that, and I invite people, and I take all these people out, and we have these great things, and I develop that from just wanting to do fun stuff to these bonding moments with high level performing people into my executive experience series, which is now I'll take the cool, amazing adventure and combine it with this cool masterclass kind of executive experience. And that's been really, really valuable. And I do, oh man, I do like 40 a year now. And so the one you're talking about is we did an exotic car rally from LA to Monterey along the coast. I did 10 exotic cars, 10 members, and we swapped cars every hour along the way. So you get to drive all these 10 exotic cars along the coast and stay up in Monterey and back. It was incredible. And I think in the car process, the Ferrari was the biggest, baddest beast of them all by far from a driving perspective. But the Audi R8 was the most universally usable exotic car, supercar you could have. Felt the most comfortable, performed the best, seemed like a normal car. Everything kind of worked where you thought it was like a normal car. That's the one you could actually drive the most. So I'd say that was probably my favorite.
Very cool. And what's your favorite, if you're doing 40 of these adventures a year, what's your favorite?
It's pretty tough because I just came back from the greatest shark diving adventure anybody could ever have in their entire lives. So that's like, I don't know how you top that.
Yeah.
And the 18 people that I brought there were just the greatest sort of group of people. We had a magical experience. But I really enjoy the snow biking, the snowmobiling on a dirt bike up in Whistler is probably my favorite activity to do. So I'll probably do that 4 times this year. But I like we did an RV camp and climb where I got like 8 of us and we got big RVs and we went and made a little RV city in the middle of nowhere, which was really cool. Like I like all that stuff. A jet ski to Catalina Island is fun. We do big tuna fishing, which is great. And we do helicopter salmon fishing up in Whistler, which is good. So I do a lot of really fun stuff. And it's just like people they love curate, like it's done for them. It's curated. I put it together and we just go make these adventures. And it's really good people and really good fun. It's like it's made me practice the art of winning every weekend. When I go out, it's like I'm gonna win this weekend.
Woohoo!
Yeah, buddy.
What I like is more important than having the things is you are giving people experiences. And this is something that we forget. We try to collect stuff, which then just fills our garage. And then we need to get a bigger garage and a bigger house to collect more stuff. But the experiences stick with us for a lifetime.
Well, and I noticed it really profoundly this last summer. We went up, it was like one of the last weekends of the sort of summer thing in September, and up to Mammoth Mountain where they do downhill mountain biking on the chairlift. And love that. We've gone a couple of years and it's like, we almost didn't go this year because there's just so many weekends, right? But I put the trip together and, 12 of us went up there. And I realized when we went there wasn't one single person on that trip that would have gone if I had not put that trip together. I wouldn't have gone. But because I put it together and made all the details and got the hotel and the bike rentals, like 12 of us went up there. We had this incredible time together for the weekend. We experienced this great stuff. We got out of our comfort zone. We left the phones and you're not emailing all day on the weekend. We spent 20 some odd $1,000 in the industry and the tourism and in people's restaurants and cafes and rentals and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, wow, if I hadn't put that invite out there, none of us would have experienced this. And it just drove me to be like, I got to keep doing this because this is what is really valuable for people right now as well.
Awesome. So since you do have a new book that's out,
Oh,
can
yeah.
you give us the 3-minute pitch or less, or what you're so excited about with this book?
What I'm really excited about the 3-minute rule is it teaches people how to say less and get more from any pitch or presentation or communication in their lives. It shows you how to use Hollywood storytelling techniques to lead your audience to the conclusion you want. And it's a step-by-step guide that will take all the most valuable information of what your business, product, or service offers and shows you how to structure it so that your audience can rationalize it to themselves and to others. And I've been a high-level Hollywood producer for almost 20 years. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of TV shows. And the way Hollywood tells stories is so powerful, and you can use that in your everyday life. And with this book, it will help change your thoughts on how to communicate and how to get your message heard.
Even with your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, relationships, it's almost natural for that because in a relationship, you have a lot of emotion. And what you'll end up doing is you'll be very passionate about your opinions and you'll be passionate about the emotional effect, which is not what people want to hear, and they don't process that information. They want facts and information. Right now, in our world, we want facts and information first, and then we'll talk about what the emotion and the desire is. And it's helped in my relationships where I know how to okay, let me get you the information first. And then if you want to talk further, now we're on the same plane.
Beautiful. And since I've got an amazing editor, I've got to ask the question again because I called it the 3-minute pitch. And what I meant is give me the 3-minute pitch on the 3-minute rule.
Yes.
So I've got to say that since you have a new book coming out, or you have a new book that just came out, what can you tell us? Give us a 3-minute pitch on the 3-minute rule. And you've already answered it, but now we'll sew that in. All right. So we've got that. We've even got what your favorite car is. What one last tip would you give to people to be able to become a pro at happiness?
I think the biggest thing to look at is look at your life statistically. Imagine if a Vegas odds maker came in to look at your life and said, what would they set the odds of you having a good year or being as successful or better than your last year? For 99% of the people out there, their lives progress. They get bigger, they get better, they more understand, they have wisdom. But we're programmed to look at the future as burning piles of problems, and we plot a way around them, right? Like when you feel successful, you're like, you plotted your way around all the disaster that it could have been. And what I try to tell you is like, the disasters that it could have been were never really there. Those are mirages. Like if you look back at the last 20 years of your life, it seems to be keeps getting better. You keep getting more knowledge. It's like, that's going to happen next year. Your life is going to be enriched again. So don't rob that from yourself by overthinking things and trying to plot through all the problems that you think might happen that never happen anyways. It's like, focus on how well you've done to get here today. And listen, there are people who just can't find their way out of a mess. They find their way in all the time. I get it. But for most people, and anybody listening to this, that's not them. They're probably in a good space. They want to be better and they're worried about not getting better, but that's silly. It is going to be better. It always gets better.
And on that note, where can people go to find your book, to find your adventures? Oh my God, do we have a bunch of URLs coming up?
Yeah.
To find your show and to find out more, Brant?
The easiest one is at Brant Pinvidic on any of the socials or my website, brantpinvidic.com. Of course, you can go directly to rejectaverage.com and check that out. That's a lot of fun. And the 3minuterule.com has all the book stuff. So pretty hard to miss if you're anywhere near any of those things.
And would you mind spelling out Brant Pinvidic for us?
Yes. BrantPinvidic.
Woohoo! Any last words of wisdom you want to share with us, Brant, before we get you to, I don't know, how to stop rocking and rolling? Actually, no, we're going to encourage you. Bring more of it to this world.
Rock and roll more. I would say practice winning every situation. The easiest one is when you go out to dinner next time or lunch, pretend that it's a contest to see who has the best interaction with the waiter or waitress. Just see how you would do. And the exercise I do with people is like, close your eyes. Even right now, if you're listening, close your eyes. Picture how you would be with that waiter or waitress. What would you do? What would your face be like? How would you say it? What kind of attitude would you have? Okay. I'm telling you right now, I can see through the computers. I can see you already starting to smile. I can see your chest starting to fill, your shoulders getting back. Like physiologically, you start to change the way you think, feel, look, because you're thinking about how do I win this situation. And it's like you practice that, you will be surprised how easy it comes after that.
Woohoo! And you're talking about a win-win. You
Yeah.
can win while the other person wins too.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brant. This has been so much fun. I look forward to being on a future adventure with you.
Yeah, man. And listen, you won't find this that we talked about today anywhere. I don't talk about this in public at all. But for you, I brought it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the 3-minute rule, and begin practicing winning in each situation today, and shine bright. Woohoo!
There you go, brother.
Awesome. You brought it.
Right on.
All right. Keep in touch, my brother. I'm sure we will, and I will let you know when we're live and all that good stuff.
All right, buddy, you got it.
All right. Take care, Brent.
Thanks, man.
I just had the most beautiful interview with Brant Pinvidic on the 4 secrets to success and happiness. To check out more incredible videos on finding success and happiness in your life, click here, subscribe below, and click on the bell icon to be notified for our next show.